Stella Martin claims her neighbor's son intentionally burned her daughter with a 4th of July sparkler. Audrey Davidson says the boy is only 5 years old and should have been supervised around the hazardous fireworks.
All right, Ms. Martin, you're suing Ms. Davison for $600 because her son injured your daughter in medical bills. All right, so talk to me. Tell me what happened.
So, Your Honor, I had a 4th of July party, and her son, Aiden, burnt my daughter, Mia, with a sparkler.
Okay. You had a 4th of July party. How many people were there?
There were about 15 children and 20 adults.
And was she there?
No, she was not there.
And was that planned, that her child would be there and she wouldn't be there?
Yes, we discussed it earlier. So she lives a couple of houses down from me, and I invited her to
How long had you known each other?
Only a couple of months. She moved in
But the kids would play?
They met once at her housewarming party.
Okay. And how old are the kids?
They're both 5.
Okay. She invites you to a 4th of July party, but you already had plans?
Yeah, my sister had moved to the area, and so she had invited us, but I knew there weren't going to be any kids there. And so Stella has suggested that Aiden can come to her party because there's going to be a lot of kids, and we're new, so
all right. So how did it go with Aiden that day?
So that's not really true. She asked, so I invited her to the party, and she said she already had plans. And she asked if he could come.
In any event, you took Aiden, right? Like you said,
yes.
Yeah, no problem.
Correct.
All right, so she drops Aiden off, and then she leaves. And
right.
How does it go with Aiden that day?
It was difficult. So we had a lot of different activities planned. We have a swimming pool. And
how many kids? 15?
There were 15.
And they're all around 5 years old?
Yeah, a couple are younger, a couple older.
Were there any other kids there without their parents?
No, everyone's parents were there. So all the kids went into the pool, and Aiden was splashing and
as kids do in a pool.
Sure. But not really listening. He also had we had pool noodles, and he was hitting kids with it, which was okay until he hit a younger kid, and the younger kid was really upset. So I was just like, everyone out of the pool. We've lost pool privileges for now. So everyone got out, and then we moved on to another activity. We had like cornhole, like beanbag toss. And he immediately started throwing the beanbags at the side of the house and at other kids. And at that point, I pulled him aside, and just to give him a warning, and said, if you keep misbehaving, I'm going to call your mom and have her pick you up. And after that conversation, it seemed like he took my advice, and he was behaving until the next incident.
And what was the next incident?
So I had bought sparklers for the older kids, and it had started to get dark, so I lined them up, and they were all spaced out.
When you say older kids, how old?
5 and up.
Okay. You mean you didn't put a sparkler in an infant?
Correct.
Okay,
no, I did not.
Okay.
So lined them up, told them the safety, the rules, and I was there, a couple of parents were there, and Aiden immediately started getting too close with his sparkler to the other kids. So I had another talk with him about fire safety.
Why don't you just take the sparkler out of the 5-year-old hand if it's looking like the 5-year-old can't handle a sparkler?
Right.
Which is a dangerous instrumentality.
Honestly, there's no excuse other than there were tons of different things.
So what ends up happening?
So I have to walk away. I hired a live band who drove in, and I briefly went inside just to open the door and show them in the back where to set up. And I just hear this awful screaming and crying. Sorry.
Blood-curdling screams from your daughter who was burned.
Coming up on Justice for the People.
She never called you or texted you or said there's any problem?
No. And I get there, Aiden is crying, inconsolable. He's so sorry. It was an accident.
And later,
You hit the mirror?
No.
So nobody called you right away to say, hey, mirror broken.
When I contacted her about payment, which I still had not received, she claims I broke the mirror, and because of that, she doesn't owe me what she already agreed to.
if you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to brother people with Judge Milian, we're back with the case of Stella Martin, who blames neighbor Audrey Davidson for a fireworks injury.
Okay, go on.
So I came outside and, you know, it was just chaos. Like, I didn't know what had happened. She was just holding her face, and my friend who had seen the incident told me what had happened, that Aiden had burned her with a sparkler.
Okay, and did your friend, who's not here to testify, tell you that it had been intentional or it had been an accident?
Yes, it had been intentional.
Intentional. Okay. Do you have a picture of the
I do.
injury to your daughter?
Yes.
What ends up happening at that point?
So at that point, we called an ambulance, and while we're waiting for the ambulance, I called Audrey. And she
Is this the burn that on her cheek?
Yes, that's correct.
Why didn't you just take her to the ER rather than wait for an ambulance?
Our cars were both in the shop.
Oh, okay. Go on.
So call the ambulance, and I called her. She didn't answer, so I left her a voicemail. And I left with Mia.
Did you ask anybody to watch Aiden while you were gone?
My husband, yes.
Okay.
My husband was there with
All right,
her.
so you go to the hospital. What do they do for her? I imagine what they did was not a whole lot. Like, they probably just put some kind of ointment and gave you some instructions on how it is you should take care of the burn. And
Yeah, so it was a first degree. They cleaned it up as best as they could, and they prescribed an ointment.
right, there are certain things you have to do.
Yeah.
I know, to try to make sure that you don't scar after a burn. And so make sure that you take care of all of those things. Let me hear from you, Ms. Davidson. How did you find out that this had happened?
So I finally got a call from Stella. I was at my sister's house. She was having a big party for all her coworkers, and so I was there to help her cook all the food. And I let her know when I had dropped Aiden off that if there were any problems, I'm 20 minutes down the road, give me a call, I will come get him right away.
She never called you or texted you
No.
or said there's any problem?
No. So I didn't know about any of the incidents that she has explained until the end of the night when I, after cleaning up, check my phone for voicemails. It says, please come pick up Aiden right away. And I got there and he's inconsolable.
Did she text you at all or no?
No. She just called me the one time.
Okay, so go on.
I get there, Aiden is crying, inconsolable. He's so sorry. It was an accident. He was a little too close to her. I mean, they're 5 years old, and it was an accident. And he accidentally hit her with it, and he felt so bad, and he was so upset.
So the next day you get text from her asking for payment for the medical visit.
So that night, I sent her a text. I have that as well. If you'd like
let me
to
see it.
I sent her a text that night.
Thank you.
Letting her know that I was so sorry and that if Mia needed anything and I wanted to check on her. There was no response. And then the next morning I get a text saying, you're responsible for this. Please Zelle me.
Can I see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also have the medical invoice if you do want that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Audrey. Please pay $600 for Mia's medical bills. She has a first-degree burn on her face. Your son is responsible for this. Hi, Stella. I will not be paying for your daughter's medical bills. Aiden wouldn't have burned your child if you actually supervise the children. I don't owe you anything. Mm-hmm. Okay. Has he apologized to her?
He has, yeah. He felt
does she
bad.
Does she talk to him, or she doesn't talk to him?
She doesn't want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Ms. Martin. Why on God's green earth would you hand sparklers to a 5-year-old who's been misbehaving all day, according to you, and walk away and leave the 5-year-old with no supervision? There's no good answer to that, because if he truly had been misbehaving all day, then you should have called his mother to pick him up. You're party planning. You don't need to be watching somebody's kid while you're in the midst of a party. But you agreed to do it, and now you have to do it responsibly. Not only do you complain that he's been misbehaving all day, but you literally then take a sparkler and put it in the kid's hands, which I wouldn't do with a 14-year-old. I just like that, you know, I mean, that is literally a fire. You put the fire in the kid's hand, and then you went to answer the door because you had a big band coming, or band coming for your part. I mean, how is this, like the 5-year-old was being 5.
Right.
That's his excuse, but what is yours?
I mean, like you said, there's no good
No,
good answer.
there isn't. But then you've come to court, and you were the one who was, she's right, you were the one who was in charge of the child. So you should have been, we should have never put a sparkler in his hand, but you certainly shouldn't put the sparkler in the hand of a child who's been misbehaving, and you certainly shouldn't do it and walk away. This isn't on her. This is on you. It's negligent supervision on your part, not hers. Verdict for the defendant.
All rise.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim is denied.
I hope that Stella has learned her lesson and can in the future take responsibility for her actions.
One thing I can tell you is my daughter will not be seeing that boy again.
Thank you.
Coming up.
So what happened? You hit the mirror?
No. When I contacted her about payment, which I still had not received, then she claims I broke the mirror, and because of that, she doesn't owe me what she already agreed to.
Closed cap. This is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. Joseph Miller claims he completed a light installation for a grand opening, but the client isn't paying up. Harper Sutton says Mr. Miller shattered an expensive mirror in her tattoo shop, so she owes him nothing.
All right, Mr. Miller, you are suing Ms. Sutton for $300. The balance of some work that you did at her salon. Tell me about this.
Yes, Your Honor. I was contacted by Ms. Sutton to do an installation, electrical installation of some lights for her grand opening. She's the daughter of some long-standing clients, so I agreed to do the job. When I showed up and did the walkthrough with her and looked at the space, I gave her the quote of $1,000 initially for approximately 30 to 40 Chinese lantern lights.
Okay, so explain to me like what these look like.
They're like the paper, usually the lanterns are paper covered. They're usually like globular in shape.
Okay.
And they can become in various sizes. But sometimes they're also
And
cylindrical.
this was a grand opening?
Yes.
Of what?
My tattoo shop.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, and how many of them did she order?
Well, there were approximately 30 to 40 to be hung.
To be hung?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm having trouble envisioning what the job looks like.
It's a very high ceiling, Your Honor.
Yeah,
A
very high ceilings.
ceiling. So now, all right, so whatever. You end up quoting her $1,000, and she says what?
She says she has a budget cap of $700, and she says in the email that we were corresponding, she said, I'm a little bit desperate. Can you give me a returning customer discount? She wasn't my returning customer. Her parents were my returning customers, but I was trying to do a bit of a good deed, so I agreed to give her the 30% discount.
How'd that work out for you?
Coming up.
Well, you don't even know that he shattered it. For all I know, your manager may have walked by it and it fell, and then he put it back up. We don't know.
I trust my employees.
You told him to stay there. He left, but you clearly can't trust him with instructions.
No.
This is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We're back with the case of Joseph Miller, who brought Harper Sutton to court over unpaid electrical work.
You give her this big discount.
Yeah.
And then you explain to her that she has to pay you a deposit.
A
the agreement.
$400 up front, which she did pay, $300 after the deinstallation.
The deinstallation. And then did you agree on what day the deinstallation would be?
I did call her when I was on the way at 7:30 in the morning. If there was an issue or she couldn't make that,
and did you make contact with her?
I made contact with her over the phone while I was on the way.
And she said fine.
She sent her manager to let us in at that point.
All right, so the manager lets you in, and what?
The manager lets us in and then takes off. And then when we get in there, we see that there was a bunch of furniture left behind from the event, including the mirror in question in the doorway.
So what happened? You hit the mirror?
Nearly 2 weeks go by. I had still not received the rest of my payment. I contact her by text.
So nobody called you right away to say, hey, mirror broken?
No. When I contacted her about payment, which I still had not received, then she claims I broke the mirror, and because of that, she doesn't owe me what she already agreed to.
Ms. Sutton,
yes, Your Honor.
You sent your manager. What was the point of your manager going if not to supervise what was happening?
He was supervising what he was doing. He called me an hour and a half later and said, okay, they're out. We have all the furniture out. Everything is cleared so they can work. But according to Mr. Miller, all the furnitures are still there. The manager just showed up to let them in, which was not the case.
It was not the case, or it was not what you told the manager to do? What do you mean?
No, I told the manager to go over there and let them in.
Right, but
and
what
move
did the manager do?
He went there, opened the doors so they can come in. He moved all the furniture out of the way.
Okay, if you moved all the furniture, how did the mirror get broken? Oh, you don't even know how the mirror got broken.
I don't know how the mirror got broken, and regardless,
Did you ever call him and say the mirror, you broke the mirror right after it happened, or did you wait until he billed you 2 weeks later?
Judge Milian's verdict when justice for the people returns. Promotional Judge Milian.
For all I know, your manager may have walked by it and it fell and then he put it back up. We don't know.
I trust my employees.
What are you talking about? You told him to make sure everything was gone. He forgot the mirror. We've already discussed that. You told him to stay there. He left. We've already discussed that. So when you say you trust your employees, you clearly can't trust them with instructions.
No.
Let me just tell you, a better way to handle this would be to have a contract in writing that says it'll be uninstalled at 11 o'clock or 10, because that's the rental period, whatever time it is, from this time to that time. Whatever the deal is, communication is key to all this stuff, right?
Correct.
And you signed a contract that distinctly says the furniture will be moved. But I don't even know that he hid it. I have no idea how that broke. For all I know, it might have broken the night before. You have no idea how it broke. And you're using that to not pay the rest of this already discounted fee.
Yeah, but he didn't mention anything about any mirror at all.
But see, if I come to my business and I see that something's broken and I say, aha, the only person it could have been is him, I pick up the phone, I mean, the natural behavior would be to pick up the phone and call him and say, dude, what happened? My mirror's broken, and try to figure it out. You do none of that because, according to you, he should be calling you. But weirdly, nothing comes up until he bills you, and then it's, you broke my mirror 2 weeks ago, and he's, what? No. Pay the man his $300. Verdict for the plaintiff.
All rise.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant owes $300. Silas Gonzalez claims he loaned his friend an expensive telescope, but he never got it back. Liam O'Berry says he tried to return it several times, but his mom accidentally donated the telescope while the plaintiff was out of town.
Mr. Gonzalez, you are suing Mr. O'Berry for $950 that you feel he owes you because he did not return a telescope that you loaned him. How long have you two known each other?
We've known each other for 4 years now.
And how is it that you know each other?
I met him at a group event when we were going to an astronomy convention in Phoenix,
astronomy convention?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
So we'd have our little group meetings. We have a whole group chat of
all
8 to 12.
over the country, or?
No, in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
So this would be between 8 to 12 people. We'd all meet up. We'd get our telescopes. We'd go ahead and talk about just the photos that we got. We'd talk about basically the stars that we'd be looking at that night.
You loaned him your telescope?
I did loan him the telescope.
And why did you loan him your telescope?
I was going to leave for 6 months, and before I had left, he had mentioned that he was going to be with his girlfriend and a couple of friends stargazing at the top of her apartment.
Okay.
I went ahead and I asked him if he wanted to go ahead and borrow the telescope. He said, well, I was going to use some binoculars. I told him that's not a way to look at the stars. I mean.
So you ask him if he'd like to borrow it. He says, I was just going to use binoculars. I was going to use my eyeballs. What was special about that night? Was there something in particular you guys were going to watch that night?
It was just, I love looking at stars. He loves astronomy more than me. He likes supermoons and like comets and things like that. I just like looking at the stars and everything. I'm fine with my binoculars.
So why didn't you just say no and I don't want to borrow your...
Because he just kept pushing and pushing. I'm not going to argue with him.
Just say no. No, dude, no.
He can get a little angry sometimes, and
he's not going to get angry that you don't take his $1,000 piece of equipment. So in any event, you do borrow it, correct?
I do borrow.
And then you go out of town.
Yeah, I was gone for 6 months. I went to Japan. I was in some remote locations, and I did express this to him that I'm not going to be around my phone because between a group of people, between the church, we go to these remote locations. These places are underdeveloped. We go ahead and we build them. We go ahead and take that time to go to these remote locations and make communities, and I wanted to do something good for, I don't know, not just my environment here, but around the world.
Okay. What was the plan when you loaned it to him? Did you tell him, hey, you're going to need to house it for 6 months?
Yes, I did communicate
Because
that
you
with him.
said, I'll loan this to you, but but I won't be back until 6 months?
Correct, yeah.
Your Honor, it's longer than 6 months.
Hold on 1 second. I will be with you in a moment. So you go out of town, and then what do you do?
I come back to Phoenix, I text them. I say, hey, I have a blue supermoon that I really want to see. It comes every either decade or every 2 decades. And then within the month that it does come, it comes either once or twice a month.
Okay.
That month it came twice, but then I was only able to see it the second time around, so the second part of the month.
Because that's the only time that you were in Phoenix.
I was in Phoenix, yes,
okay.
correct. And when I messaged him, I didn't get a response back.
Okay.
And then I waited, I want to say a good day or so. I did message him, and then I told him I had to go on to another trip.
How
the
long
day
was
after.
this next trip?
A month.
Okay, when's the next time you communicate with him?
I had sent him a message on October 13th, just letting him know
what
that
year?
I'm leaving. This was
Okay.
This was last year. So I'm
Last
sitting
year.
here,
All
last
right.
year.
So,
Correct.
what the blue moon or blue supermoon or super blue moon?
So it was the super blue moon.
Super blue moon.
Yes.
And that was when?
That was last year. So it was
what
gonna.
month?
So it was gonna October 13th. So October
Okay,
last
and
year.
that's what he didn't respond to?
Yeah, he didn't respond to it. So I sent
And
him a
then
message
when's
on
the next contact you have with him?
on the 23rd, 10 days later after my
23rd of what, October?
Yes, correct.
And he says what?
He says, hey man, I reached out to my parents to get your telescope from their garage, and I learned that they donated it. If you had contacted me sooner, I could have gotten it back to you, but it's been months.
How long then was it in his possession?
7 months.
All right, let's talk. It is your turn to shine, Mr. O'Berry. What happened?
Like you said, the night I went to dinner with my girlfriend and some friends, and then I was stargazing on my girlfriend's roof after that. I asked him if he'd like to come. He said no, he didn't want to come. I was using my binoculars. He wanted to push the telescope, so I ended up taking the telescope.
How did you get it?
We were hanging out,
Okay.
and then he just let me borrow it, and I just took it over to my girlfriend's.
Okay.
And then I had it in my girlfriend's, using it. He says 6 months, but I contacted him multiple times. He didn't respond to me. He said I didn't respond to him in 10 days. He didn't respond to me in 7 months. I have messages
but
right here.
Did you know he was going to be gone for 6 months and
He said he was going out to Japan for a couple months. I didn't know it was going to be 7 months. I wasn't going to hear from him.
So when's the first contact that you or he have with each other during those first 6 months?
So I messaged him.
When? When did you message him?
Couple months after.
Tell me exactly when.
So I messaged him in April of about 12th.
Okay, April 12th is how long after you got the telescope in your possession?
So I got it in March.
Okay, so that's 1 month later.
1 month,
all right?
I guess.
And then what happens?
Reached out to him, nothing. Then reached out to him in June. Since it's taken too long, I'm downsizing to go to my girlfriend's apartment. Once we did get in touch, once I was moving, I asked him.
Oh, so you did get in touch. So now that's
Eventually.
June, that's 3 months in.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
I contacted him.
April, May, June. Yeah.
I said, I can't hold on to your telescope any longer. I just asked if I could bring it over to his house while he's gone. He told me no, I can't just go drop it off at his apartment.
Coming up on Justice for the People.
He was my friend of 4 years.
I
had
don't
that
care.
trust.
Why? I'm not asking you how long was that's the answer to how long was he your friend. That is not what I'm asking. I am asking you big deal. So what? They open the door and the telescope goes in a closet.
And later,
Hey, have you heard from Harry at all today? He's not responding to me. Wait, has he really not texted you? Apparently, John told him you had been seeing someone else.
if you'll be in the Los Angeles area, this is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We're back with the case of Silas Gonzalez, who blames Liam O'Berry for his missing telescope.
You say to him, I'd like to drop it off at your apartment, and you answer him what?
So I had people renting the apartment for about 2 months. That's
Okay.
at the time that I came in for the supermoon, and then I was leaving the next day.
Right.
I had people renting that apartment for about two months.
Right, but so what? If he wants to
I
return
I didn't want to disturb the people who were renting
what's
the apartment.
disturbed? You open the door and they take it.
At the end of the day, he was my friend of 4 years.
I
had
don't
that
care.
trust.
Why?
level in
I'm
him.
not asking you how long was that's the answer to how long was he your friend. That is not what I'm asking. I am asking you big deal. So what? They open the door and the telescope goes in a closet.
At the end of the day,
How big
Your
is this
Honor,
thing? Do you have a picture of this?
I do have a photo of it.
Can I
yes.
see it?
Your Honor, may I ask you something?
No, just wait a second. I'm in the middle of a question.
Thank you.
It's high tech. This is like a super super telescope right here.
Yes, I know. I understand. So rather than have it floating around, he's ready to deliver it to your house, and then it would be in your possession. And then what did you say to him? No, I don't want my tenants disturbed.
Well, because it wouldn't be in my possession. It would be in
certainly
the
be
tenant's.
more in your possession than what was happening, because the guy told you I'm downsizing. I'd already start worrying about it. So then what do?
Since I'm downsized, I can hang on to it. I give it to my mom. I put it in my mom's garage.
And what'd you tell your mother?
I just told her it wasn't mine. I didn't tell her it wasn't my friend's.
Well, I'm sorry. Okay. You're showing up at your mother's house.
I just put it in her garage.
Just a second. Did you talk to your parents and tell them, I'm putting this in your garage?
I didn't tell them I was putting it in their garage, no.
You just literally abandoned his telescope in your parents' garage without giving your parents a clue?
All my stuff was in there. I had boxes from moving. My mom knew I had boxes of things in there, and the telescope was with that as well.
And yet, what did your parents do?
They donated the telescope.
Did your parents call you and say, come and get your stuff, and you didn't?
They did not. I reached out to them about the telescope, and then she told me it was donated to a nonprofit.
And I don't care who it's donated to. The fact that she would take a telescope and she knows it's not hers. She knows your stuff is in there. She knows you're into astronomy. Why would she donate a telescope instead of saying, get over here and get this stuff out of here?
At that time, I didn't know she was downsizing.
Well, whatever she's doing. So, you know, you left it at a place without even telling people, I'm leaving it here, please be careful. Like, that's not a lot of care that you gave the thing.
I took care of it for 7 months.
No, but see, here's the thing. You act like you weren't supposed to have it at all, but you borrowed it knowing it was going to be months, just you don't know how many months. Then you guys have communication, and he says, you say to him, I'd like to take it to your house, which should have been what you did, for sure. And you said, no, don't do that yet. Then you take it. You might as well put it in the garbage can. That's kind of what you did at that point, because you took it to a place without telling the people who own it, because that's typical child behavior. That you, how old are you? How old are you?
26.
Right. I have one of you. And in fact, I have two of you. I have a 27-year-old and a 25-year-old, and they think that this is their house forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And why were you in my room? I'm like, it's all my room, you know. And so you drop it off there, and then the unthinkable happens. She just gets rid of your stuff and his stuff.
Yes.
No, you're responsible.
I offered him $300, and he just wants $950.
No, and I think you're right about that. This is, you know, you bought this telescope when?
I bought this telescope of 2020, and this was given to the charity in 2022.
Okay, so what you get in court is about making you whole, not putting you in a better position than you were in before. If I were to order replacement value in a court of law, woo-woo for you, right? That is not what we do in court. What we do is we award you the value of the item at the time of the loss, not the value of the item at the time that you paid for it, not what you paid for it, not the value of the item to replace it, replacement value. No, it's the value of the item at the time of the loss. So it's depreciated value. That's what you're going to get because it's a used item.
Your Honor, it's a really expensive telescope.
I know.
And 950 isn't that, you know.
No, that's the replacement value. You're not getting that.
I hear you, Your Honor.
Right. My English is as good as I think it is, right? Okay, cool. I realize what you're saying. I understand your argument that he waited a long time, but you act as though you weren't part of that. You were part of that. You knew he was going to be gone for months. You're talking to him. You tell him, okay, so this is what I'm going to do then. I'm going to put it in my parents' house, and then you do, but you don't tell your parents, and then your parents get rid of it. How could you think that it isn't your fault? It is your fault.
I do take responsibility.
Yes,
I do take responsibility,
and I am setting the value of the item at $600. Verdict for the plaintiff.
All rise.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant owes $600.
I thought I could trust you as my friend, but...
Friends don't take each other to court. I shouldn't be here for $950.
You took my kindness.
You gave it to me.
Okay.
Coming up.
What she didn't tell you is that my friend John was at the same wedding as us, so he knew her pretty well at this point. He tells me that she's been dating another guy this whole time.
Closed captioning provided by Is for the People with Judge Milian. Nicole Howard claims a one-night stand, invited her to visit him in New York, and then ghosted her when she arrived. Harry Calloway says Miss Howard never told him she was seeing other people, and he can't stand liars.
Okay, Ms. Howard, you are suing your former friend, Mr. Calloway, for $745. You say he owes you because he asked you to come and visit him and then kind of ghosted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Where did you two originally meet?
We didn't really get super familiar until a mutual friend's wedding.
All right, and what happened?
So at the wedding, we had gotten to talking, we were drinking, having a good time, and we ended up hooking up that night.
Okay, and then did you start dating after that, or you were living in different coasts?
He had moved to New York, and then he had invited me to come stay with him in New York. I wanted to see where things could lead to.
Okay.
So I booked the flight. That morning, I text him before I fly out there. He doesn't reply.
So what happens? That morning you text him before taking the flight?
Before the flight.
And
yes.
what do you say in that text?
I have it right here, if you'd like to see it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
About to take off. So this is right when you're about to take off.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. See you soon. And then when you landed, can't wait to see you. What's your address? Ooh, we're not much of a planner, are we? So you didn't have his address. You landed at the airport without an address.
Yes.
He does not answer that?
He did not answer.
And then what do you do?
So I texted a mutual friend. I have the receipts if you'd like to see
Okay,
those.
yeah. What? And so this is a friend of yours that's also a friend of his?
Yes.
And you text that friend to find out? Does anybody call anybody anymore? Hey, have you heard from Harry at all today? He's not responding to me. Wait, has he really not texted you? Apparently, John told him you had been seeing someone else, and Harry got really mad. He said he was going to tell you not to even bother coming to New York. Well, he never told me that. Okay, so the plot thickens. Were you seeing someone else?
I mean, I was casually seeing a few people.
Wow. Yeah, because, I mean, you're not even really seeing him.
No.
So what happened, Mr. Calloway? Tell me your version of things here.
What she didn't tell you is that my friend John was at the same wedding as us, so he knew her pretty well at this point. He tells me that she's been dating another guy this whole time.
Like what whole time? The whole time that you've been what? Talking on the phone?
Coming up.
In other words, John tells you whatever John tells you. Why isn't your first action to call her?
I mean, I just don't associate with liars.
Closed captioning provided by with Judge Milian. We're back with the case of Nicole Howard, who brought Harry Calloway to court over a failed romantic rendezvous.
Do you expect that she was, 100% not seeing anybody just because you talk on the phone? I mean, it hadn't gotten anywhere yet. Like, in other words, John tells you whatever John tells you. Why isn't your first action to call her?
I mean, I just don't associate with liars.
Did you ever ask her, are you seeing anybody?
I mean, by omission, she didn't say anything.
Right, but maybe because it's not worth mentioning, because it's not as important as John paints it out to be.
I just assumed I was a low priority at that point after
finding out. But why would you assume that? You know that her only reason for coming to New York was to get to know you. Because,
no.
Yes, it was. That prior text, do you have text between the two of you before the trip?
Your Honor, I have some records
here.
Yeah,
let's see if we're looking at the same thing. Take it from both of them, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'd love to see you. How would you feel about coming to visit me in New York one week? She responds, I'd love to. I just don't know if I can afford to do that right now. But if this is for the furtherance of our potential relationship, then it's worth it to me.
Potential.
Then you say to her, listen, you're more than welcome to stay at my place so you don't have to spend money on a hotel. I want to see if this is worth pursuing. When John tells you this stuff, why don't you pick up the phone, call her, and tell her, I have no interest in you coming, so she could call it off?
I just figured she'd start telling more lies.
But what difference does it make? At least you'd put her on notice that she can't stay with you before she boards a plane.
I mean, the way I'm thinking about it, if she's been keeping all this from me,
Keeping all what from you?
Her other relationship.
What other relationship? You don't even know how deep that is. Right. John told you what?
John said she's been dating another guy.
Judge Milian's verdict. When justice for the people returns. Promotional consideration for the people with Judge Milian.
Look, Mr. Calloway, you are entitled to decide what you want out of life. What you are not entitled to is to entice someone to spend money to come visit you and then keep your mouth shut even though you didn't have to. There was still time to stop her. And instead, you ghosted her. You caused her to go ahead and use the ticket that she wouldn't have used if you had told her, I'm not interested in you. You caused her to end up having to pay for a hotel room, which she wouldn't have ended up in that position if you had just told her, don't come, I'm not interested in you. So I find that you are going to be paying her $745. Verdict for the plaintiff.
All rise.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the plaintiff, the defendant, O.